Respected chairman of the session and dear friends, let me take this opportunity to thank everyone, especially the ECF organizers and the esteemed colleagues here, to give me this opportunity to present my work. The work being presented here is about the constraint assessment using critical maximum principal stress and active volume ahead of the crack tip to take care of the loss of constraint or increment in the constraint with the change in crack depth of the fracture specimens and the effect of those on the reference transition temperature. The presentation is divided in these subdivisions. If you look at the fracture behavior of BCC alloys, it shows a cleavage kind of fracture at the lower shell and a transition to the upper shell. And this transition is defined by the master curve methodology, which is greatly developed by Professor Kim Wallin, who is present here. And but this behavior, the master curve methodology is based on the assumption that the stress field at the crack tip is self-similar. And in that case, the active volume which is present at the crack tip, which is encompassing all the cleavage triggers at the crack tip, can be defined with Bk to the power 4 scaling. Taking that Bk to the power 4 scaling in V with 3 parameter distribution, the probability of cleavage failure is defined. However, when we have constraint loss, which can happen because of the small size testing, or if we test at the higher temperature in the ductile brittle transition, or for a shallower crack, or at low strain rate, the fracture toughness increases because of the loss of constraint. And in that case, the self-similarity of the stress field at the crack tip is not there. So in that case, probably this Bk to the power 4 scaling will not work as well. So the objective of this work is to constraint correct the fracture data generated for the shallower cracks as well as the deeper cracks, and introduction to a novel constraint parameter to modify the numerical constraint probability, which is described by the Burmese model and Weibull stress functions. So under non-self similarity of the stress field at the crack tip, the active volume will look something like this, and it is visible here that the volume which is describing the cleavage fracture is not scaling with Bk to the power 4. So if we assume the area of maximum principal stress volume should change with the J square, so therefore K to the power 4, and the volume becomes B into K to the power 4 under the self-similar stress condition. But here it is not self-similar stress condition, so it will not be equal to Bk to the power 4. So there can be three possibilities to describe this active volume. The first can be that we transform this to a hypothetical volume, where the active volume, the same amount of the active volume is transformed to an SSY condition where the stresses are self-similar at the crack tip, and we define a new thickness which is B effective. This kind of methodology was proposed by Anderson and Dodds. Then second possibility can be to assume that it is not scaling with Bk to the power 4 but something else, which is the methodology used here. And the third one was first proposed by Wong in his thesis 1991, and it was later heavily, extensively used in the work of Gao and Dodds and also Professor Ruggeri's work recently. Here the experimental data of Sumter and Forbes is shown, where the KJC distribution with the A by W, it shows that the KJC remains unaffected in the domain of 0.3 to 0.7. Although ASTM standard defines the A by W ratio to be in 0.45 to 0.55. So we have tried to do the fracture testing in the domain of 0.3 to 0.7 A by W, and we have tried to see that whether K to the power 4 scaling works, or by numerical correction, is it possible to capture the fracture behavior which falls in the same constraint domain or self-similarity of the stress field can be transformed to that condition. So the fracture tests were performed in the range of 0.3 to 0.7, and the data set was divided in these four groups: 0.3 to 0.35, 35 to 0.45, 452, and so on. And the material on which the fracture data was generated is similar to the Eurofor 97. It's a fusion reactive test banked material. And the typical microstructure of this type of steel shows tempered martensite with a pre-austenitic grain boundary, as you can see, and the white patches are the M23-6 carbide at the pre-austenitic grain boundaries, as well as the interlath boundaries. And inside the grains you have MX type precipitates as well. This kind of steel is very clean, so in this case inclusions do not play a role as cleavage initiators, but the carbides are the actual potential cleavage initiators. So the master curve analysis for group 1 to 4 is shown here, and the data set is not conclusive because the data set is very small for each group. Although it can be seen that for the deeper crack where the constraint is higher, supposedly, the master curve is able to describe the fracture behavior in a better way in comparison to the for the data set which was generated for the shallower cracks. Another observation is that the reference transition temperature estimated with the conventional master curve methodology is increasing with increment in the crack depth, which is obvious because as you increase the constraint, the reference transition temperature will increase. So the numerical modeling using incremental plasticity was done for the geometry tested. This is one figure for 0.6 A by W, and similar kind of models were made for 0.3 to 0.7, and the active volume was calculated at the crack tip. And the active volume with the KJC, which was obtained from the response of load line displacement for each model, and the KJC was calculated according to the ASTM E1921, is plotted here. For each model, we fitted the KJC versus the active volume variation in this form, where again there is this one scaling of V0 because of initial blunting of the model, and then we are not choosing. We are trying to see what is the scaling parameter here, beta. And just for the sake of investigation, not to make any conclusion, we have plotted the fitting parameters against the standard constraint parameter delta T stress and T stress, and it shows that there is a trend with the fitting parameters. And as if you can recall in the first slide where I talked about the three possibilities, the third one was about bk to the power 4 scaling and a factor before that, which is used by Gauss dots and called G function. And that G function is correlated to the constraint assessment. So if in that third possibility we can assess the constraint with that factor, probably these parameters also are assessing or in a way are measuring the constraint effect or not. But there is no conclusion made in this work. Using this variation of fracture toughness with active volume, we have transformed all the data set falling in the other groups, group 1, group 2 and group 4 to a value of A by W of 0.5 by using the fact that for same amount of active volume deformed, the probability of cleavage failure will be same. After transforming that data set, the estimated T0 is close to the value which we got for group 4 and group 3. And the distribution is also well captured by the conventional master curve. So here I am going to propose a constraint parameter for the numerical assessment of the cleavage failure probability. Again, the concept is of self-similarity of the stress field at the crack tip. When the self-similarity is not there, if you recall the Berman's model, which is used for the numerical assessment of cleavage failure probability, is based on the failure probability of each element at the crack tip. And each element crack tip failure is defined by maximum principal stress scaled with a Weibull slope. However, when the self-similarity is not there, each element's failure probability is not random. So this randomness is broken because there is a variation of triaxiality along the crack front. And so in order to capture that, we have utilized this ratio of Mises by hydrostatic, and in this case this hydrostatic is actually pressure. So when it is negative, it is tensile. And when this factor is integrated over this active volume, this is termed as Weibull triaxiality. And a modified cleavage failure probability is proposed and not investigated in this work. Although we have analyzed that weeble triaxiality and compared with the standard T-stress values obtained from the SSY boundary layer model using these boundary conditions at all the nodes. And here you can see that the systematic behavior of weeble triaxiality is shown. As the crack goes deeper, 0.3, 0.4, 0.6 and 0.7, the weeble triaxiality is increasing. It's decreasing in negative way, so the constraint is increasing. But T-stress shows no correlation with QW. Probably the reason is because T-stress is not able to capture the effect of constraint when the plasticity is more. So summarizing the whole work, the fracture tests were performed in the range of 0.3 to 0.78 by W, and the shallower crack depth fracture data were transformed to a deeper crack value using the sigma star V star approach, and the estimated T0 was showing a good result with the conventional master curve for a deeper crack. Then a weeble triaxiality constraint parameter is proposed, and compared with the standard T-stress, modified numerical cleavage failure probability is proposed. And the advantage of this weeble triaxiality function is that when there is a continuous crack growth, probably the T-stress calculation is difficult. And even for a static crack, the T-stress calculation is difficult because every time you have to model a boundary layer problem. Whereas this function can be used for a growing crack. So at the end, I would be happy to answer any question.
Thank you very much for a very interesting presentation.